the initial thing that I think about is we lifted a distraction out of the locker room, out of this football team. And again, now we can start concentrating on getting ready instead of quit talking about Micah Parsons. Because the thing I was concerned about, Mike, is just his problems, his concern, his negotiations filtered into the locker room. And now the other players are talking about that instead of talking about what they need to do to get ready for the season opener. So that was my main concern. And you don't know with the actions of Micah Parsons, the way he's laying on the table,
Yeah.
walking down the tunnel, eating nachos before the game, and looking disinterested and all that. We don't really know how that seeps in to the locker room and with the players and their mentality and their approach to things. And so Mr. Jones sees all this, Schottenheimer sees all this, and they have to make a decision. Do
Yeah.
we remove this distraction or we keep dealing with it and let it continue to be a distraction? So they had to make a move and they had a buyer out there. And Mike, this kind of reminded me of back in the day with Mr. Gil Brandt, the late Gil Brandt, Hall of Famer. When he made a trade with some of us veteran players, he would send us to Green Bay, Seattle, places like that. So this kind of reminded me of the old days. At least they're not in the conference. I mean, in the division, they're in the
Right.
conference, but Mike is going to have to buy a coat. He's got enough money. He's going to have to buy a fur coat to be dealing with that weather in Green Bay.
Yeah, he's not going to like that. So, Drew, is it almost, I feel crazy for even asking this because of how good of a player Mike is, but is it addition by subtraction then because of the effect that he could have had on the other players as we're about to start the season in just a matter of days here?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, you hate to lose a player like that. Everybody's saying, generational talent and all this. And I'm looking at his stats 63 games, and he had 52 sacks in
Oof.
63 games. I mean, he
Wow.
is a generational talent.
Yeah.
But Mr. Jones had to make a decision between we and me. Okay? The we is the team. The me is Micah Parsons. So he went with the we and hoping the team get rid of this distraction and move on from this deal. And let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. So it was between me and we, and Mr. Jones went with we. And I don't have any problem with that. This is a team sport. Mike, you remember the great Lawrence Taylor, how bad he was?
I'm a Giants fan, Drew. Yeah.
All right, me too, growing up, right?
Yeah.
But he had Harry Carson in the middle. He had Brad Van Pelt.
Yep.
Who's it? Marshall,
Yep.
defensive tackle.
Leonard Marshall. Yep.
Leonard Marshall. He had people around him that let him be himself.
Yeah.
And so with Micah, he's got to get the right people around him. And I don't know if that happens in Green Bay. It didn't happen here in Dallas. But you know what else? We also stockpile the defensive tackle position
Right.
or the defensive line position just in case something like this happens.
Yeah, right. And again, obviously, you've added a Pro Bowl player too, and you've got the first round draft picks the next 2 years. Drew, I know Michael Irvin. I think he said it crazy, stupid move, something like that. I'm sure it's a polarizing move, and you've got people on both sides here. What is the talk amongst all of you legends? I don't know if you've talked to anybody else. What are the guys saying?
We would have said like back in the day, especially if you're under contract, you had no leverage.
Right.
Okay. These guys got a little leverage, and I don't know how Micah was able to create his leverage to get what he wanted, the new contract and the trade, because he requested a trade,
Yep.
when things weren't working out. But, back in the day, we succumbed to the ownership, okay?
Yeah.
I remember I held out one year. I didn't hold out. I was talking about holding out, okay? And then when I got to Dallas, knocked on the door and Steck Schramm, come here. You want to get this contract done? I said, yes, sir. Go back into the meeting room. That night, the contract was done. Did I get a raise? No, but I got the contract, okay? But nowadays, it's a little different. They not only get the contract, but they have the power and the ability maybe to go to a better franchise, a franchise
Yeah.
that's competing and will compete for a Super Bowl title, a conference title, and stuff like that. So he had some leverage, but we back in the day, like, we had no leverage. You know,
Yeah. Drew,
please don't cut us. Please don't trade us.
I was
You
going to say,
know.
how often, Drew, do you sit around and say, man, I wish I was born later, when you see
Oh
him
my
sign a
God.
$188 million contract as a defensive lineman?
You wouldn't know me, Mike. I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be on the beach somewhere spending that money, working on this tan.
That's great. So, Drew, bottom line, are they a better team now going into this season? Are they a worse team? What do you say to the Cowboys fans who feel like this season has now been lost before it's even started?
Let's just say they're a work in progress right now, because I think the offense is going to be okay. You know,
Right.
we got Pickens in here. That's going to make a difference. I hope CD Lamb out. Ferguson's a really good tight end. We brought in Miles Sanders. The offensive line, you know, Guyton and Smith, those guys are syncing together. So I'd say work in progress, because we don't know what it's going to look like on the defensive side of the football. Offense will be okay, but can that defense get the ball back for our offense and
Right.
give our offense good field position when they do that? So that's what we're going to have to see, and the onus is on the defensive coordinator who just came in from the Chicago Bears, Elberfuss. I can't even pronounce his name, but you know who I'm talking about. So that's a challenge for them. The challenge is really on the defensive side of the football. The offensive side is set. You know, there's even Schottenheimer's been involved with the offense for the last 2 years, so he knows the personnel very well. But on the defensive side, let's just say it's a work in progress at this point.
And nothing here says to you, Jerry can't do this anymore. Jerry needs to step down. This was a huge screw up by Jerry Jones. This was a situation where Jerry was forced into I got to pick the Cowboys, or I've got to pick one player, and he picked the Cowboys.
Yeah, but, we can't, if we're in his shoes, we don't, we know this is a tough decision. But I also know Mr. Jones thoroughly investigated this decision. All right? Not between him and his son and people in that offense, outside the office, here and there, other people around the league and stuff like that, because that's what he does as a great businessman. And so, but he just still couldn't get this solved. And I know that's a crawl that sticks in his belly, because he's the deal maker. He thinks he can get this done. He did it with Dak. He strung him out. He did it with CD, strung him out, but he got those deals done. And I know this has got to be a disappointment to him, no matter what they say, that he did not get this deal done. And we lose a great player because of that. So now it's up to everybody else to step up and make Mr. Jones look like the Hall of Famer he is. Hey, this is the headlines in Dallas. Can you see that?
What's Parsons traded? Wow.
That's
front page.
Front page news in Dallas, man. So maybe tomorrow we'll have regular news on the newspaper.